customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Happy employees lead to happy customers, which ultimately leads to happy shareholders. So, where do you find happy employees? Well, you could hire them that way, but the problem is, you also need to ensure you're keeping them that way. What if you had the resources to do both? Well, the DiJulius Group's Employee Experience Executive Academy, we enable you to do just that. Our 12-month part-time intensive course, similar to a master's program, contains a comprehensive curriculum which includes how to create a recruitment experience, an onboarding experience, and an employee experience that retains those happy employees. We also cover how to shape and strengthen organizational culture and how to use collaboration to tear down silos. Plus, you'll learn presentation skills and storytelling to inspire and align your team with your vision. The curriculum covers building and developing great leaders, achieving work-life balance, and proven strategies for implementing and executing your newfound knowledge to ensure lasting impact within your organization. All of this happens with expert guidance from our highly experienced faculty and an interactive learning experience surrounded by like-minded individuals who come to the table with their own best practices to share. You can look forward to truly transformational results at the Employee Experience Executive Academy. Our graduates emerge as empowered leaders with the tools, strategies, and mindset to drive meaningful change and create an exceptional employee experience that fuels organizational growth. Learn more today by contacting Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. Have you ever struggled with understanding how to best lead Gen Zers? We know this is an impactful generation, and as leaders, we need to work with them to help others connect, command, and lead more effectively. In this episode, John talks with Brian Polian, the author of Coaching and Teaching Generation Z, Honor the Relationships. After 25 years of coaching football at the highest levels, we're talking such places as Notre Dame, LSU, Stanford, Texas A&amp, Brian stepped back from the coaching ranks and came back to his alma mater, Carroll University, to step into the role of Vice President of Athletics and National Engagement. He's now sharing about leadership in high-performance organizations and what he enjoys so much about those experiences, and how Generation Z forced him to rethink how he did his job and what the most important role for a leader is. Enjoy learning more about this and how Brian's father, Bill Polian, the Super Bowl champion and Pro Football Hall of Famer, influenced his vision for the future.
Welcome back, revolutionaries. And today I have Brian Polian, who is a former coach of 25 years at the highest level of such places as Notre Dame, LSU, Stanford, and Texas A&amp. Brian has recently stepped down from the coaching ranks and came back to his alma mater, Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio, as the Vice President of Athletics and National Engagement. He also has authored a book, Coaching and Teaching Generation Z, Honor the Relationship. Welcome, Brian.
Appreciate the chance to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm excited. There's a lot of things I'd like to get into. So give our audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So born in New York City, raised in Western New York, Buffalo. My dad, a professional in the football world, uh, member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Polian.
Yeah, so I grew up around sports at the highest level, but also moved a ton as a result.
Kind of like an Army brat.
Yeah, exactly like an Army brat. So, reach that point where you're like 16, 17 and you're trying to figure out what you want to do next. And I would imagine it's a lot like other kids. You might grow up with a dad as a dentist and you say, I want to do this, or I'm going to go as far away from this as possible.
Yeah.
And for me, I loved the competition. I loved watching what coaches were doing, and I just figured that was my path. And 25 years coaching, and it was a direct result of coming up the way I did with my father, and just loving the sport and loving teaching, and it took me on this journey that lasted a quarter of a century, and I think 11 or 12 moves, and has since brought us back here to Northeast Ohio.
So, yeah, and Bill Polian is a legend in the football world. Like you said, Hall of Fame, Super Bowl champion. What was what was the biggest thing you learned growing up in that type of climate around sports and sports leadership?
I think one of the things that set my dad apart and that I noticed so quickly was just his loyalty to his people, and that he valued the players first and foremost, because he understood, whether it be at the college level or the pro level, that they were the talent. If it weren't for them, he wouldn't have a job. And then as an administrator, the second group that was on his priority list there was the coaches, because he understood the commitment that they gave and the sacrifice, and how important it was for them to compete and win. And I've always taken that with me. To me, no matter where I've been, whether I'm coaching, administrating a department that's got 650 student athletes in it, or if I'm in a classroom, the most important people to me are the student athletes, the people that we're serving.
Yeah, and something that always, excuse me, gets said is, whether it's professional or amateur, collegiate, is at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yes.
How did you, now you coached at some of the best programs in the country, Notre Dame, LSU, Texas A&M.
Texas A&amp.
Yeah. How do you combat that as a student athlete? Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and if the student athlete, I guess, isn't producing, right, he's going to get replaced, or she's going to get replaced. If you're not winning at that level, you're going to get replaced.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? Because at the end of the day, it's the same thing in a business.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I do think there is a distinction in the sense that in professional sports, winning is the bottom line. That is it. In major college sports, we are still developing people. We are still in the business of guiding, and people still have to answer for graduation rates and academic progress and all those things. But you and I live in the real world. We understand that at Ohio State, you can't be 9-3 every year in football. Like, the standard is the standard. So if we look at it from strictly a business point of view, my father believed, Marv Levy, Tony Dungy, the people that have been my mentors, and I believe that if you invest in your people, success is a byproduct. You will win more if you're invested in your people, in their well-being, in their lives, that you will help them reach their highest potential. And so that we don't treat them like chess pieces. They're not
Right.
pawns on a board. They are individuals. They are unique. They all have unique needs. And as the leaders, we have to try and help meet those needs so that they can be their best.
I taught in my latest book, The Employee Experience Revolution. It's all about leadership. And I talk about demonstrating to your employees that it's not just about how efficient, productive, and profitable they are.
Yeah.
And training in the train the whole human being.
Yep.
Outside of what they can do for your company. But we talk about training our employees, or offering training our employees on the 5 F's, which coincide with the number one New Year's resolutions, right? Family, fitness, finance, fun,
Yep.
faith, and those things. And so we try to bring in experts and that for anyone that wants it, to learn, get better book, book clubs with teams. How did you, or how do you demonstrate what you call about, investing in your people?
So we have a term that we use that I actually learned from Greg Brown, the CEO of Motorola, and it's the term we call emotional currency. And I am trying to build up a bank of emotional currency with my people at every opportunity. So how much time does it take for me to know that it's my soccer coach's birthday? And on his birthday, reach out and say, "Hey man, I'm just thinking about you. I want to wish you a happy birthday." Or for that matter, recently I was on a trip in Columbus, Ohio. I knew full well I didn't have a lot of time to meet with folks, but there was a major stakeholder in our department that's from Columbus. So I'm going to simply text him and say, "I'm in your town. I don't have time to see you, but just being here makes me think of you."
Love
And
it.
I just wanted to reach out and say hello. When an employee, whether the employee or the spouse has a new baby, like I'm gonna make sure that we send flowers and that we set up a meal train to help a new parent. Okay, we're gonna make sure for the first 3 weeks, collectively as a team, we're gonna bring a meal every other night. That's not part of their salary. That's not part of their compensation package. That's emotional currency that we're trying to build up so that in my world, I don't want to lose a coach for a $15,000 raise to a what I would consider a lateral move. I want their quality of life to be so good and they feel cared about and valued so that when I do lose somebody, which I lost somebody this week, she doubled her salary and got a job in Major League Baseball.
Wow.
Well, hey, that's a win
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at every turn, how can I make people know that they're valued and that they're important to us?
Yeah. And then, teaching that to your coaches
Yes.
as the head of the athletic department. Is that something that you teach them? Is that something they're willing to learn, right? If I've been a coach for 25 years, I'm successful, it's hard sometimes to get someone to understand the importance. Do you look for that in people? Do you offer that training? Is it mandatory? What does that look like?
No, I'm looking for it as a trait in people that I'm evaluating. Do they have emotional IQ? Do they care about other people? Do they understand that I'm in the people business? I'm in the young people business.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with Gen Z, which is completely different, where things that were acceptable, things that worked 10 years ago aren't acceptable anymore. And so our leaders have to have the agility to adjust. They have to adapt. And I think in the sports world, we see this every year. Somebody loses a high profile job because they have not evolved as the times have evolved and as our constituents, our people, the young people have evolved. So I tell our coaches all the time, I tell anybody in leadership in our organization, it is your job to know the details of your people's lives. Like our coaches, the football coach needs to know the details of 120 student athletes' lives. He may not know every detail, but he needs to know where they're from, their family. And if he doesn't know them, then the coordinator, the position coach ought to know them in detail. In the same way that I need to know that our baseball coach had his first child, last summer, and he's going through a season now for the first time as a new parent. And I've got to offer some grace. I've got to offer some advice. And I've got to keep that in mind. It's my job to know the details of my people's lives.
Something that's, I think there's so many parallel. I played Division I baseball. Two of my sons competed Division I wrestling. And there's and when I was picking when we were picking a coach, when my sons were picking a coach, what was most important to me as the dad maybe not as my sons at that point, because I don't think they think about this, was this is going to be someone my son is around 24/7 for the next 5 years.
Yes.
He's going to redshirt, at D1, and they're going to look up to. And the most important thing to me was, is this someone I want modeling the behavior that my son will turn into? So that was really important.
And I think
Yeah.
worth mentioning there too, we're at a time right now where information has never been more accessible in the history of mankind. So when I was a special teams coordinator at Notre Dame and a young man wanted to learn how to long snap, he would come to my camp, and for 3 days I'd teach him how to long snap.
Yeah.
Well, now he can find 600 videos on YouTube how to long snap. So the expertise, while it's important that our coaches, our leaders, they have to have it, but the reality of it is information is accessible. What great leaders do is they mentor, they guide, they provide love, they provide standards, they provide discipline. It's all the other stuff that has become more important as information has become the most accessible it's ever been.
Listen, there's always been parallels to business and sports, but now, with the transfer portal, it's so, because you as a coach, me as a leader of a business, we're dealing with the same Generation Z who are looking for the best offer.
Yep.
And best offers isn't always money, pay, scholarship. That's certainly part of it, but it could be so many things, right? And now, you have to make sure, the backup, quarterback, pitcher, tennis player, whatever is, you're trying to keep them happy and engaged in the sport, or they can leave. Just like, my receptionist can leave for a better offer, down the street, whatever a better offer looks like. So now it's really parallel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, how do you do that? How do you keep them engaged? Because it's a free for all. For those who are listening that maybe don't follow sports as much. Years ago, you'd have to sit out a year if you transferred. So that really deterred it. Then it switched to you can transfer once. Now I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it every division that you can transfer as much as you want?
Yeah, it is literally free agency every 6 months.
Right.
And your entire roster
could change.
It's a free agent. And the world of college athletics is more volatile right now than professional athletics.
Yeah.
Because in the pros, they sign contracts.
Right.
And they don't become free agents until the end of the contract. In college athletics right now, there are 2 portal openings, and for each sport, every 6 months, you could replace a third of your team. And so now, not only are you recruiting talent acquisition, you're trying to find young people to choose your university and enter your program, you're also re-recruiting everybody on your current roster within your organization. And to me, the only way to do that is through hard work. It's touches. You've got
emotional currency.
Yes, it's emotional currency. It's consistent communication. It's constant touches, and there's no shortcut around that. When we talk about investing in people, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about communication, and now more than ever, if you're not honest with people, you've got no chance, at least in my world, because they can just get up and choose another place. So which
is the same in a business.
Yes.
Right. I mean, they're all free agents every day of the week.
Yep.
We don't even have the 6-month window to lock someone in. So we are talking apples to apples.
Are you still guessing at ways to improve your customer satisfaction scores? Or how to hire and keep the best talent? Stop guessing and become knowledgeable. Join the Customer Experience Executive Academy and learn what the world-class companies already know. At the Customer Experience Executive Academy, you'll learn the methodology applied by world-class companies to create consistent, memorable moments that lead to happy customers and happy employees. Visit cxea.org or contact Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com for more information on how to enroll.
Because the other thing that's really what I'm really interested in it is your book on coaching Generation Z. And you know, one of my frustrations, I know it has to be yours, is going out and consulting, and you get the older leader entrepreneurs that are just so frustrated with the younger generation.
Yes.
And they hate it. And I got to believe the coaches, the 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds don't even want to deal with these young kids because their mindset has changed. One of my and see how it relates to where you're at. One of my knee-jerk reactions a few years ago, I don't know if you heard this, but millennials canceled the word hustle.
Yeah.
And I was like, it ticked me off, right? And it's everything that I've used to get where I am. It's everything I preach to my 3 boys, right? Out hustle, because like you said, all things are equal at a certain level, right? You got great coaches, we got great leaders, we got great facilities, we got great training. So does our top 3% of competition who we're really competing with. So you got to out hustle. And I tried not to be the old guy, get off my lawn. And so I did some digging and research. And I found from a business standpoint, and tell me how it translates, from a business standpoint, millennials and Gen Zs had a front row seat at watching their parents and or grandparents, work to live.
Yes.
Right. Or live to work, I should say. And for a large percentage, that didn't pay off financially. They worked 2 jobs. They worked 70 hours a week. They probably worked long after their retirement age, maybe to the day they dropped dead. So that wasn't, rewarding, in itself. And then for the ones that it did pay off financially, okay, that came at a cost. And usually the cost is relationships at home.
Yes.
And, it started, getting me to think, who am I to say they're wrong, that they're not willing to make those sacrifices? So how does that translate to the generations of athletes, student athletes, and their different mindset, and how coaches and leaders have to be nimble and not be the curmudgeon, this generation sucks, but open to, motivating them?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to stop talking at people and start asking questions and truly listening. One of the first things that I want to do whenever I encounter a new hire, a prospective student athlete, what is it that you want? What are you trying to get out of this? Because my years of experience, I probably can help you chart that course. Because what you're searching for, I've either experienced it or I've been very close to it and seen people have done it. If you tell me you want to be rich, but you don't want to work very hard, I would tell you buy a lottery ticket and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I hear the term work-life balance. Every high achiever I have ever been around, it's not balanced 50-50. It's how do you manage? And if I only have 30% to give to my family, am I giving all 30? Am I staying 100% present and giving all 30 of that percent to my wife and children?
Right.
But
versus that 30%, you come home, but you're on the computer, on the phone, making calls.
100%.
It's not 30%.
No.
Right. And your 30% done right could be way better than my 50%, because I could be guilty of doing that stuff and disengaged and, watching my show or whatever that may be.
So the first thing we have to do is, all right, what is it that you want? And then how can I help you achieve that? And one of the great things I've learned, and I think I heard you use this term once, but I've heard it from a couple of people, is like, we have to protect the white space in the schedule, right? Like you can be a high achiever and not have to work 100 hours a week. Now you can't do that and work 28 hours a week, but there are some white spaces that you can protect for my fitness, my family, my faith. And those are non-negotiables. Nobody can interfere in those spaces. And then when we're out of that white space on the schedule, are we really dedicated to working? Are we being efficient? Are we delegating when we can delegate? And one of the things that I say to our coaches and the people that lead our programs, and I try to take this model as well, is setting standards and helping people achieve highest standards. We can be demanding with people. We can't be demeaning. And that's where I think with Gen Z, for sure, we lose them. We can set high standards and say, okay, what is your dream? All right, those are some pretty lofty.
You're allowing the Gen Z to set the standard.
Yes.
Now you're going to help hold them accountable.
Yes, I'm going to help.
I want to start as a freshman. All right, that's a big ask. You got a couple of people, upperclassmen ahead of you, but you can do it. But what do you think it'll take? I'm asking, not telling. What I'm assuming the conversation goes. What do you think it'll take for you to be able to get a significant playing time as a true freshman?
Yeah.
Well, I got to be there off season. I got to be. I'm assuming. So now you get me to commit to what it's going to take, and then when I'm complaining that I'm not getting enough playing time, you could say, "Hey, John, what happened to showing up on the summer?" Or that, right? Is that how it works?
That's exactly it. And there's really there's a much bigger picture theme here, and that is, in my experience, really high achievers are self-determined. And for people to reach self-determination, three things have to be in place. They have to be competent, they have to feel autonomous, that they're setting their own goals, and they have to be relational. They have to be part of healthy relationships. And that's how I approach working with any person, specifically young people, though. My job is to help them be competent. I have to teach them what to do. I want them to feel autonomous. John, you are setting your own goals. You're setting your path, your journey. I'm here to support that. And then the third part is you and I are in a relationship, and I'm going to be a partner with you on this journey. And if we can help people achieve those three things, then that's when they're at their best. And I think as leaders, Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, it doesn't matter. If we can help get those three things in place, that's when people achieve. With Gen Z specifically, it used to be you and I, Coach, why should I do that? Because I said so. All right, you're the coach.
Right.
My boss.
Right.
Hey, I need you to do this. Why? Because I'm the boss. Right. All right. That's different now. We have to be willing to explain to people from 30,000 feet, this is why I'm asking you to do this. Okay, I understand that now. That's different about this group that we're dealing with. As leaders, we have to be willing to show them the big picture. But, that's our job. We have to adjust to them.
So what other nuances are there about Gen Z that you have to not only train yourself, but train your coaching staffs? How many coaching staffs do you oversee?
So I have 24 varsity sports and 650 student athletes.
Wow. So you have, 24 coaching staffs underneath you. What's the best advice? You said ask questions. Build emotional currency, have them set their goals, and you help, create some structure on how they can accomplish it. What other nuances about Gen Z, pros and cons, do you see that's different from previous generations?
So something as simple as technology, and the fact that I was raised by a dad that if I was going to have a meaningful conversation with a superior, a boss, a coach, whatever, I was going to sit in that office. I was going to look at that person eye to eye. And if we're having a meaningful conversation, that's the way it should be done. Gen Z, I have found in my personal experience, I had a young man that played for me at Nevada when I was the head coach there, who had been through some bad stuff in his life. He had seen some stuff at 19 years old that I was never going to see.
Yeah.
And I tried really hard to connect with this young man. Tell me how you're feeling. How can I support you? And in the office, he'd look at me and he'd shift in his chair and he'd be staring at his feet. I couldn't break through. And one night at 11:30, I texted him. I said, "Hey, man, I'm just thinking about you. What's going on?" And it opened up a text chain that went on for an hour. And I learned more from him at 11:30 at night, going back and forth over his cell phone. Gen Z will communicate with you through technology.
In their preferred channel.
Yes.
Right. Listen, your student athletes, your coaching staff are your customers.
Yes.
And, like I said, we have to be willing to meet our customers where they want to meet us.
Absolutely.
Don't force them to call us if they don't want to. They want to, they want to use the app. They want to go to the website. They want to text digital. So, yeah.
And then the use of technology in teaching. I mean, we are in the edutainment business.
Yeah.
Just getting up and lecturing doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Speaking head.
We have to incorporate video. We got to get them up off their feet. We have to be willing to change what I would call a classroom setting. Like at the University of Notre Dame, Brian Kelly, love him, hate him, doesn't matter. The man's brilliant. In 2018, we redid all of our meeting rooms. We had big plush chairs at the front for the big fat guys would fall in their chair and throw their arm over. We had tables like this with some rolling chairs underneath. We had high top bar tables in the back of the room with no stool. And people would say, why would you do that? Because Gen Z, we're dealing with a lot of ADHD and people that, they have some learning challenges. So I'm okay with a guy in the back of the room walking around as long as he's paying attention and listening to me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with having music on while I'm watching tape. 20 years ago, I went to an all-boys Catholic school. If I got up in the middle of religion class and told Father Mark I just need to walk around the back of the room, I'd have gotten a backhand in the side of the head.
But you know what? You bring up a good point. Those are all things that we probably needed, but
nobody was willing to give us.
Open to that. There was only one way to learn.
Yep.
And I don't know if Gen Z in that capacity is different, or they've just forced us to
there's probably
accommodate them. Yeah,
probably some truth in that.
Yeah, another thing that came up yesterday on a call is with a client that we're doing training videos for customer experience. Is she said, listen, I said, the training video should be no more than 45 minutes. And she said, and some people have 3-hour training videos. And she said, yeah, maybe, total, but they can't be more than 60 seconds individually because they're so used to the TikTok, YouTube shorts, and, anything over a minute and a half, you'll lose them. So you have to change how you feed them that training.
No doubt. In the year 2000, the average attention span for a young person was about 20 seconds. Okay. In the year 2024, it's anywhere between 6 and 8.
Yeah.
So that would affect how we marketed ourselves. I'm the recruiting coordinator at Notre Dame. I'm meeting with our graphics, our video, our essentially our marketing arm, and telling them, if you don't get their attention in the first 8 seconds, we're done.
Yes.
And so whatever you're producing, I'm not the artist, I'm not the creative, but whatever you're doing, you better grab their
Don't
attention.
hold your A material for the crescendo that we used to leading up to it.
Yep.
And that's why if you watch, and I'm no pro at this, but if you watch successful videos online, they'll open with the, shock and awe.
Yep.
And it may not make sense. And then they'll go to, what are you talking about? But they have to catch you at hello.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to scroll.
Yep.
Right. Love that. Love that. All right. So something I want to ask you that's very important to the business world that I know is important to you and athletic departments and teams is, all right, in the business world, sales, consultants, in my salons, the hairdressers and nail tech, they always get the praise. Like in sports, the players, the athletes, coaches to some degree, but especially if you want to go on the field, right? The quarterback wide receiver and running backs are the ones that get the glory.
Yep.
The only time the offensive lineman gets mentioned is when he screws up.
Yep.
Right. And now they call timeout and they say 87 penalty, and everyone wants to kill 87, forgetting the 62 plays where he knocked the guy on his rear end so the quarterback could throw 3 touchdowns and the running back could run for a touchdown. And whose name gets in the paper tomorrow? The quarterback and the running back. Well, even taking it a step further, we call it invisible service providers. Invisible service providers are the ones in business that the customer doesn't see. It's someone setting up this podcast. It's someone getting me the information, the research to be able to interview you. It's the people in the back office, HR. It's payroll. All the people.
It's a great line cook.
Yes,
at a restaurant.
Exactly. Now in sports,
who's not the chef that comes out.
Right. It's the athletic trainer.
Yep.
It's the receptionist.
Yeah.
It's your assistant that's making sure you run on time. How do you give, the lower level, not in the limelight, who will get the praise just by when we win? How do you give them to make them feel part of this and that they're contributing? Because they are.
Yeah.
They totally are.
I think, first of all, we are in a business world. If I can reward somebody monetarily that does a great job in the shadows, I'm always going to do that, because that is in part how I show my appreciation, because I have a budget. So I'm able to at times hand out raises, and I want to make sure that we're taking care of the people that work in the shadows, but we would not be able to function without them. I also think that we live in a world right now where I can use my social media channels to highlight people. Our department would not function if it were not for a young man by the name of Sean Cronin, who runs our equipment room. And
that's exactly
nobody knows the equipment guy,
up,
right?
Has it there, knows when it needs to be fixed. Because if I come in and there's only one treadmill left, and I can't get my workout in, right, shit's gonna hit the fan.
This is the guy that keeps every sport clothed. He deals with Under Armour. He makes sure that everything's. We can't function without him. So whenever I can celebrate him publicly, I'm going to do so. And when I go to senior leadership level on the campus and they want me to talk about somebody, I'm not going to talk about the head basketball coach. We talk about him enough. He's in the newspaper.
Right.
I'm going to talk about Allison Kwan, who's our assistant AD for operations, who makes all the trains run on time.
Right.
And nobody knows who she is.
Right.
So I'm going to make
But everyone got there. Everyone got
Yes.
their equipment got there. And we just think it happened magically.
And so then when the university or the organization presents opportunities, who are we going to train? Who are we going to develop? Who are we going to take some extra time? We're running a professional development group here. Identify your rising stars that we're going to prepare for bigger roles. I'm going to choose the people that work in the shadows so that they know I'm invested in their future. Any chance I can celebrate the people that we couldn't function without, but they're not in the limelight, I'm going to force the limelight on them. Because what I've learned is if we got to correct something, I'm going to do it one-on-one. But if there's a victory, I want to celebrate it as publicly as possible.
Yeah, I love that. That's not even something I thought of, is the praise social media.
Yeah.
Another really good praise that I've learned and try to do is praising with their family.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I was talking about your staff, right? Sometimes our biggest competitor as an employer is not necessarily the company you could go work for. It's your spouse.
Yeah.
Meaning, Brian, you're working all the time. Your boss is that company is, and we got to make sure they know we appreciate the sacrifice that they have to make to allow a Brian to work, especially during peak season.
Yeah.
Everyone has a peak season. And, making sure that we show, we got to tell you the impact Brian's having. And we know, Brian's great, but he couldn't be making that impact if it wasn't for
Yeah.
his spouse, picking up, the things that Brian, would be normally doing. And I think that's really important is making sure the family first knows how great their spouse, their family members doing in their job, and be proud of them, but that we appreciate the sacrifice that has to be happening.
It's funny that you say that, because as you mentioned that, a moment in my career pops into my head where a walk-on at Notre Dame approached my father after a game and said, "Your son changed my life." And my father came to me emotional and said, "You could be called whatever by ESPN.com, the recruiter of the year, whatever, all these things that you get, you will never receive a greater compliment."
Yeah.
And he said the fact that he shared that with me, how much that meant to my father, he had tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's another great example of emotional currency, and one that frankly, I've probably
You're still talking about.
utilized, but I'm not sure I was ever aware that I was utilizing that.
Yeah. You're now, doing a lot of leadership and high performance, presentations. Tell our listeners what that looks like, what your presentation is about, that you, apply it to the business world.
Yeah. So the Gen Z stuff, I'm not an expert on it. I do have 25 years of reference of working with young people. And I was being asked to go out and talk about that, which I'm enthusiastic about. I love it. And then it morphed into, well, you've been a part of some really high performing organizations, and I have been lucky that way. And it was, what are the traits? What are the things that were common? What did you identify in great leaders? And it was a really rewarding exercise for me to sit down and think about.
Yeah.
And then to take my thoughts and to visit with people that I trusted across not just sports, but the business world and higher education and everywhere. And to organize those thoughts and crystallize them and be able to get up and share and have people say, this, our organization's got nothing to do with sports, but the lessons that you learn speak to us directly. Like, I was fortunate enough, I gave a talk to 200 McDonald's franchise operators in Columbus. What do I know about running a restaurant? I know leadership. I know high performing organizations. And to a certain degree, my experience with young people, that's their workforce. So when I look at it from that lens, like, okay, this does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so getting up in front of people and discussing the importance of and the responsibility of leadership, the single most important things that leaders do, having these discussions has opened up a whole new audience for me. It has allowed me the opportunity to learn from some really great people in worlds that I would have never.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that I would have the CEO of Motorola's number in my phone and could lean on him for advice. But these things have happened, and I've learned a lot from it. Now I'm able to share some of those things that I've learned. And I'll give you a great example. We're about to give a talk here in less than 2 weeks, and it's all about the number one job of any leader is to make decisions. And do you really think about your process when faced with a decision? How much time do I have? Who am I listening to? Am I focused on a gut instinct, or am I data driven? And how do I combine the two of those to make the best decision? How do I reflect and learn from what we've just done? Because you and I both know not every decision is going to be perfect. Mistakes are going to be made. How do we learn from those? And those discussions are.
And what about us seeking input from others?
Absolutely.
Instead of thinking I have to be the one.
Yes.
And you might be a lower level, and to go to a Brian who's, the hypothetical lower level assistant, whatever. Brian, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, he'd be shocked, but he also has some great, a perspective that he would probably never think to offer because
Absolutely.
he doesn't have the 39 years of experience.
The humility to know that other people have expertise and I can lean on that, and I'm going to collect that data, and also the command of the room to tell everybody silence means agreement. So if I'm asking you to speak,
Right.
if you don't speak right now, I'm assuming you agree with me. And also in leadership, knowing that agreement is alignment and agreement are two different things. My job as the leader is to collect all the data and make the best decision I can make. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but in high performing organizations, when the decision is made and somebody owns it, the leader, we walk out of the room aligned and everybody understands this is the decision. This is why we've made it.
I like what you just said there. Silence means agreement, which you have to tell them.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you how many situations I've been in where I'll say, all right, red or blue, right? What do we want to do here? And, two people say it's got to be red, and they're passionate. And two or three people, and let's say there's 10 or 20 in the room, two or three people, Brian says, it's got to be red because red. And someone else says, absolutely, he's 100% correct. And whoa, okay, everyone thinks. And not enough times, sometimes I'll say, all right, just for kicks, let's take a vote.
Yeah.
And it might be 17-3 blue, but the Reds were the only ones shouting.
Yeah. And
I thought it was unanimous red. And, so I love that. And I need to do that to say, listen, silence is agreement.
Yes.
Meaning if I don't hear from you, I can't go around and say, what do you think? What do you think? I try to, but it's just not. And so I need pushback. And I always say, I don't mind 11th hour wrenches. Throw a wrench in the thing, even though we're just about at the goal line. If it's not right, now's the time, not 3 months later when it's a flop, you come to me and say, I could have told you.
Yeah. That. And that to me is the thing, right? Like, hey, I knew this was going to be a bad decision. All right. Well, where were you? Where were you?
Well, everyone. Well, not everyone. You weren't everyone. And then the other thing that I struggle with majorly, that is something that I'm really trying to get better, is great leaders speak last.
Yes.
And so I'll come in and say, all right, here's the thing we have to solve for. Here's the problem. One way I think could work is A. And they say that's dropping an anchor in the room.
Yeah.
Right. Because, there's a couple of different things. Everyone will just gravitate to A. The people that won't gravitate to A think, listen, John's going to end up on A. If John says he's thinking about A, it's A.
Yeah.
And they're not going to. So instead, here's the problem. Who has solutions? And let everyone talk, and you'll be surprised. You'll be pleasantly surprised. You'll learn stuff. And then maybe you put your input at the end. But I have found the few times I do it right, my initial hypothesis has changed from getting great leaders speak last. And I'm not good at that.
So one of the things that I talk about with our staff is one of the challenges I face is that everybody wants to take their problem and dump it on my desk and make it my problem. So I say, listen, if you're coming to me with a problem, I want you to come to me with 3 possible solutions as well. Well, now we may not choose together. We may not choose any one of the 3, right, but at least you've shown that you're thinking about how we can possibly solve this problem.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned leaders talk last. I think that's brilliant. And
great leaders.
Yes. And that's something that I need to do a better job of, because you come in and you're energetic and you want to solve
and you think you're giving them direction, and you're not.
You're leading them.
Right.
Now, I would take it a step further, not a step further, but it's probably related. I think symbolic things matter. I think leaders eat last too.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when
100%. That's Simon Sinek's title of his book.
When I would watch us at a team meal, the players always go first. then the coaches. The last person to go up and get his food was the head coach.
Make sure everyone's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Love that.
and I do think about that. I think about that when I think about that in everything that we do. Like, I want our people taken care of first before I'm ever concerned about
Yeah.
anything else coming my way.
All right. So let's summarize here. And maybe we haven't hit it all, but if there's 3 to 5 key things your history in high level collegiate sports, coaching, recruiting, all this, that you'd build a leader on, what are the 3 to 5 things that they need to do? You've mentioned emotional currency, honor thy relationship. What else?
To me, first, everything right
Yep.
now, specifically, if you're in my world and you are dealing with young people,
Yep.
everything starts with relationships first. You have to ask them, you cannot ask them to honor a task if you won't honor the relationship first. So it's got to start from there. The second thing is we have got to be we got to be good at what we do, because Gen Z will call bullshit. They know, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what you're talking about, they will see through it and they will shut you off. The days of that's my superior, so that, I'm going to do whatever I'm told. So we got to be relationship driven. We got to be competent. We got to be experts in what we do. I think the third thing that's really important is we have to be great communicators. We are trying to get teams of people that all have different self-interests to pull the rope in the same direction. And we have to be able to articulate a mission and help them understand why our greater mission is good for them personally. And
so what's communication look like? Storytelling, what else?
you have to be
The
agile
why
and
behind
adept.
it.
Some people need to be handled with a firm touch. Some people need to be handled with a soft touch. Some people respond to praise. Some people need a kick every once in a while. Some people need to see the 30,000-foot view of why we're doing this. Some people, hey, just tell me what it is that you need from me, and I'm going to get focused on that. And the ability and the agility as a leader to understand my people and understand how I need to approach each one, from the way that they learn to the way that we communicate. Some people want it in an email and writing. Other people want to sit with you face to face. Like, I can't have one pitch. I can't just throw a fastball. I got to throw a change. I got to throw a curve. And occasionally I got to know how to throw a knuckleball, because we are in the people business. Anybody in leadership right now is in the
One
people
size
business.
does not fit all.
Not even remotely.
Right.
And the best leaders, are not often, they're not the greatest experts. Like, brilliant jerks, we can find outliers that make it, but brilliant jerks don't make it anymore.
I mean, if you think of the greatest head coaches in any sport, I can't think of 3 all combined that were great athletes.
Yeah.
Right. Tom Brady probably won't be a head coach. Ted Williams, they tried to make him a batting coach, and he was horrible just because it came so natural to him. He didn't understand that it didn't come natural to you.
Yeah.
And if you think about all these, coach Bill Belichick, I think he was marginal at best. As a player.
I would take it even to draw the football correlation. There's this misperception that great coordinators make great head coaches. Great coordinators are experts in their fields. An offensive coordinator in the NFL is in the top 2% of football minds.
Right.
But that's got nothing to do with leading an organization.
Right.
And getting people to pull and seeing the big picture and being 2 moves ahead. Those are 2 different jobs. People don't understand that. That you can be a finite expert, but that does not mean you're going to be a great leader of an organization.
Listen, the entrepreneur or CEO, there's many hats that they're required to wear, but a lot of times, as you know, it's the politician, it's helping, gather everyone around. This is north.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have your technical people who do that. The
Yes.
offensive coordinator, the IT guy,
Yep.
the people, that know the methodology. But a lot of times that CEO or the head coach needs to be the politician, getting everyone aligned and doing that.
The smartest businessman I've ever met and one of the greatest leaders I've ever met did not have an MBA from the Wharton School. In fact, he doesn't have an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
He's an undergraduate business degree from a public institution, and he's the smartest strategic thinker I've ever been around, and one of the best leaders. And what he does is he leads the organization, he communicates, he gets everybody pulled in the right direction. He's great at personnel. I say a leader's job, my greatest talent needs to be identifying the talents of other people and putting them in the right spots in order for them to succeed. And that's what this gentleman does better than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Love it. Love it. We are talking to Brian Polian, who is the president of athletics and national engagement for John Carroll University, a former Division I coach at Notre Dame, LSU, Stanford, and Texas A&M, author of Coaching and Teaching Generation Z, and a performance and leadership speaker. Brian, how can people find out more about you? Where can they go to get the book or to learn more about Brian?
So we're at brianpolian.com.
Okay.
It provides access to the book, gives us a background, some video clips, and all the places, all the topics that I'm comfortable speaking on, and ways I can connect and help people. And there's a very simple button there at the end that if you want to reach out and connect with us, that
can you get the book on that too?
Directly from the website.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. brianpolian.com.
Yep.
And it's POLIAN.com. Brian, thank you so much for joining the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I learned a lot. I really there's things I want to do that make sure that I build more emotional currency.
Appreciate it. Grateful to be here.
All right, we'll be right back after this, revolutionaries.
If you enjoy what you're learning on the Customer Service Revolution podcast, you'll love our weekly newsletter, The E-Service. It's full of great customer experience tips and stories, includes special offers, webinars, and more each week. To sign up, head to tdg.click/eService. That's tdg.click/eService, ESERVICE. Enter your preferred email address, and you can look forward to great advice from John in your inbox every Wednesday. Thanks for listening in to this episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, managing partner of the DiJulius Group, and I invite you to send us your questions, post a review, and let us know what you liked and want to hear more of. We're happy that you're part of the Customer Service Revolution and encourage you to subscribe now so you don't miss an episode. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast station.